Andrea Moore is Westport's second Selectwoman. A native of Westport and a Staples graduate, she previously served as vice chair of the Board of Finance and on the RTM. Andrea spent more than 20 years in the financial sector with UBS, Deutsche Bank, and Salomon Brothers. Andrea is a trustee of the Westport Weston Family Y, former president of Staples Tuition Grants, Saugatuck Elementary School PTA, and A Child's Place Preschool. Welcome, Andrea, to 06880, the podcast.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for asking me to come.
So I have to start with the most obvious question. What does a second selectman do?
You know, it's funny in Westport, you meet people as you go around town and they say, oh, this is Andrea, the second selectwoman. And people, lots of blank looks. Like people don't know what the first select person does. They certainly don't know what the second select person does. So I would say the role is a support role for the first selectman, or first selectwoman in this case. Jen Tooker, who's our current first select woman, those who don't know, she runs the town. Everybody, all the department heads report to her, the police chief, the fire chief, conservation, everybody reports through her. My job is to support her and support the town. So it can be project-oriented, something that I'm interested in. I can ask if I can tackle it. It can be things that she or, that town they just need assistance with. One of the things I've been spending a lot of my time on over the last 2 years has been meeting with people who are interested in serving the town on appointed committees, commissions, and boards. So I've been spending a lot, which I love because I get to meet all these new people and try to find the right spot for them. So the short answer is you do a lot of different things. And one of the things I like about it is that it's not the same thing every day.
So is there a typical day?
No. I mean, we do one of the more official parts of the select woman job or the select person job is we do meet every 2 weeks for the Board of Select Women, where we approve contracts. There are other things that have to go by our board. So that's the three of us who serve on it. So that's kind of the official piece of it. So that's sort of in the calendar every couple weeks, but there are all kinds of different things. Most of it is about meeting with people and talking and listening, though.
So how significant is it that the Board of Select Women are all, women?
It's the first time it's happened. So I would start off with, to me, it's very significant because I'm a woman and I love the fact that it's three of us. So I think it's significant. And it's good for our girls. I'm the mother of 3 daughters. So to me, I think that it's especially heartfelt that it's 3 of us and we're all women.
It's good for the boys, too.
And it's good for the boys. It's good for everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love it.
So speaking of women in power and in the number 2 position, if you met Vice President Kamala Harris, would you have a lot to talk about?
Well, I think her role's a little different than mine is, but in some ways not. But yeah, I think I'm sure we'd have things to talk about.
And you get paid a lot for this, right?
I do. Yeah, that was really the driver of this was the money. I think it's $2,000 a year. So my husband sometimes jokes about that, I've spent more on clothes over the last 2 years for the job, the more formal attire that I need sometimes. Wow. But it's clearly serving Westport for any of these roles is not about the money. It's really about the town and the people.
So what do you get out of it? What do you get out? Why did you run and what do you get out of serving?
A lot. As you said in your remarks earlier, I grew up here, lived in New York for a little while, lived in Rowayton for a little while, and then we came back and once I got married and we were raising our kids here. So I'm super invested in the town. I care about what happens here, and I want to try to make it as good as it can be. So that's sort of initially why I got involved in town government in general. So yeah, I get a lot. And I like knowing what's going on, like really knowing what's going on. So, and helping.
So as you've taken on these different roles, PTA president, RTM, Board of Finance, now the Board of Selectwomen, has this given you a different perspective on Westport? Do you learn different things in different roles, and what's that like?
Yeah, it's I never thought that this would be the path I would take. And it's sort of like in life, I think everything sort of evolves and you have to have your eyes and ears open and let that happen. I was raised by working parents. My parents were not involved in the schools at all. My mother was not PTA president. But as my life evolved more towards my children and my family and away from my paid career, it was exciting to get involved in these things. I hadn't really done them in high school. I wasn't involved like my kids are in 100 different things. I was just your typical high school kid. And so when the opportunity arose, Stacy Curran, another friend who I grew up with, she came up to me and asked me if I wanted to be on the board of the preschool. And I went home and I was so excited. And my husband says, well, you were not going to do that, are you? Which is, of course, why I did it. And so it was great. And it was great to really know how the school worked. And it was great to see the kids so much. And so that just kind of continued on. So I wouldn't change anything in all the volunteer stuff and roles I've had in Westport. Two friends of mine, once again, friends I grew up with, Jimmy Izzo and Chris Tate, were serving on the RTM. And they approached me and they said, we really need more parents with kids in the school to be involved on the RTM. You should run. And I'd never run for anything. I'd never been in student government. But it sounded fun and it sounded interesting. And again, I would have never thought this is the path that this would have led to, but I've learned so much. And I've met so many people that I never would have otherwise met, which has been probably my favorite part about it.
From different ages and stages in life and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, when you have kids, your life, sort of the people that you meet in town, all revolve around your children. You're on the side of the sports fields. You're at meetings. You're a class parent, whatever you're doing. But this has given me the opportunity to meet people of all different, or parts of different groups. They have different interests. They're different ages. The new people who have moved to town, the seniors, and everybody in between. So it's given me a much different perspective on Westport.
I'm fascinated by the new people who've moved to town, and I keep saying that they're great. They're energetic. They're young. They came to a community because they want to get involved. Are they getting involved?
They are. I think it's harder. Many of us know it's harder when you have children who are young and there's so many, you're being pulled in 100 different directions. But I do see people getting involved, and we hear from a lot of them, and they have ideas and they see things they think could be better in Westport. So they reach out to us. We've appointed some of these new people to some of the appointed boards and commissions in different roles. And so they're kind of stepping in. I'd love to see more of it. I'd love to see more of the people do that. I don't think everybody knows how to get involved when beyond your kids' schools when you're new. But I would, the more the merrier. The more people who are involved in our government and in our non-for-profits, the better the town's going to be.
Are you looking for anything special right now?
Just people who care and want to give back to the community. And if you are that person, we would love to find a role for you. So
when you were talking before about the different people you've met, any really random part of the town that you hadn't thought of before, that you hadn't really been part of, that now you understand?
I don't know if there's any random secret underworld in town necessarily, but it is one of the things that makes Westport so energetic and lively and interesting is that we have so many different kinds of people with different interests here. I really believe that no matter who you are, if you move to this town, you can find your people. And you might have to work to find them, depending on what your interests are. But I think that there's something for everybody. We have a really lively arts community, and every piece of that. We have people who are really into sports. We have people who love the beach. We have people who like going out to dinner, whatever it is. And so I think there's really something for everybody here.
Growing up in Westport.
Yes.
And with Chris Tate and Jimmy Azog, quite a trio. What's that like? What was your growing up experience like here?
I don't know. I lived here. My parents moved out here about 2 minutes before I was born. So this is where I've lived my whole, young life. I don't know if I appreciated it, but I know I had a good growing up. We were always I had everything I needed. I could get involved in what I wanted to, although I probably didn't do as much as I should have. My friends were great. I got a good education. And I told one of my daughters this the other day when she was thinking about where she might want to live when she grows up. And I said, growing up in Westport, I always knew what I could have. And that's not financial necessarily. It's just again, I come back to it offers everything. So you grow up in a place like this and you really appreciate what your opportunities are. You can be exposed to a lot of different things. So it was great. And I kind of, fast forward a few years later after living in New York and living other places, I just couldn't imagine. I feel very fortunate that we get to live here.
What got you back here? From Rowayton?
From Rowayton. So I was working in the city. My parents both got sick within a short period of time and passed away within 9 months of each other in my late 20s. So I had a house and 2 businesses I needed to close. So I was commuting back and forth to the city for a period of time. And it was getting to be too much. This is before I had kids. So I lived in my parents' house for a little while. I rented to a few friends of mine some rooms just to pay the mortgage and to kind of keep things afloat. And then ended up buying my own house in Rowayton because I'd been spending a little time there. My husband and I got married, and he was living in Westport. He also grew up here. And it was a kind of a toss-up between the two, but we knew we wanted to be here when we were ready to have kids. So
what's it like having gone to Staples, now having kids at Staples? Do you have a different perspective on the school and your experience at Staples? Talk about Staples a bit.
Yeah. My kids' experience at Staples is so much different than mine. They are so involved in, they had sports that they were involved in. My older 2 were involved in orchestra. They were involved in clubs. They're higher achievers than I was in high school, and they took full advantage of it. So it was a little bit different. I think I was your typical 1980s, high schooler who did fine in school, but also spent a lot of time with my friends and driving around from the beach to Dairy Queen and back to the beach. And my kids' lives are so different, and I think that's kind of typical for kids now. But it's been nice. It's a whole piece of it. The candlelight concert, things like that, soccer games, track meets, regattas at the rowing club. Like it's just been, there's a lot of that I didn't do as a kid. So,
and there's also a lot of pressure. There's been a lot of talk recently about toxic achievement culture and all that. What's your feeling on that? And in a position of power, is there anything that you're able to do?
Yeah, I saw the woman who was in town, Jennifer Wallace. I saw her talk 3 times that day because I'm super focused on this and worried about it. It's rough for these kids. It's a lot, and they expect everything. They work hard. They do well. They they expect, and then it doesn't always work out, which are good lessons for kids, but it's hard. But I think my hope is that the schools, the town government doesn't oversee the schools. The Board of Education oversees the superintendent. I know that they were here at some of those discussions. So my hope is that everybody's listening and thinking about that.
And people are talking about it now.
Yes.
I think for a long time there wasn't a lot of discussion about it.
Yeah.
People are talking about that. They're talking about mental health. They're talking about these.
No, which is terrific. And you're right. People didn't talk about it. I thought her discussion, one of the most interesting pieces was the concept of mattering, and that how important it is for not, you're really talking about the kids, but for everybody to feel like they matter. And they do. We all matter in some way, to somebody. There's a lot of our kids have this whole, you need out, what's the word? You get a lot of how you feel about yourself from the outside world, whether
affirmation.
It's affirmation, thank you, from social media and from winning and all these different things, but trying to figure out a way that our kids can get a little more of it from inside and knowing they matter, and then the schools and everything finding a way to find, every kid has a role, and there aren't kids who don't feel that way. And that's hard in big, in large school systems with a lot of moving parts, but it's important.
Sure. Jen Tooker, first Selectwoman, did not grow up here. She moved here about 15 or so years ago.
Yep.
Does she talk to you about the old Westport and is that interesting to her?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, she knows a lot of us who grew up here, and I've mentioned a bunch of some of these names. There are a lot of us around. There's also a lot of people around here who didn't grow up here. Jen and I go for a walk every Saturday morning at 7:00, and it's our catch-up time because she's in the office a lot. I do a lot of what I do outside of there, so it's really she tells me what's going on. I tell her what I'm hearing. So it's and we get some exercise, which is really nice, and we get to walk by the beach, which we both love. So yeah, I mean, she knows a lot of people like us who grew up here, and she's definitely plugged into that community, and she certainly hears from them a lot. So
we talk about this a lot. There are many more people who grew up here and now live here than people realize.
Yeah, and it's all different ages. I mean, I have friends' parents who grew up here, and now they're the third or fourth generation of people living here, and it's nice, and it says something about the town that we had good experiences and we wanted to come back, and that we feel like we had good childhoods and good things. We had good exposure going into the rest of our lives, and we want that for our kids. So, and it makes it feel like home. You walk down Main Street or you go out to dinner and there's somebody there who you grew up with, and they might be 5 years younger than you or 5 years older or 30 years older than you. But it really feels like home.
Do you think your kids are going to want to live here?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think I have 3 daughters, as I said earlier. I think I might get 2 of 3 here, maybe, and not right away. I want them to graduate from college or whatever they do after that, and I want them to live in cities or live somewhere else in the country or the world. But I'd like for them to come back here eventually. It's a privilege.
Oh, it really, really is.
Yeah.
And I know through the 06880 blog that even people who don't live here, they might have lived here for 2 years or 4 years in high school and have never even been back, but they feel connected to this place.
Yeah. So we're doing something right here.
It really is interesting. So a couple of quick questions.
Yep.
Westport questions.
Yep.
Hangout. Your favorite hangout?
Campo.
That was
Beach.
quick.
That's easy. I can tell I have the skin to prove it. It's been a place I've spent a lot of time over my life, and it's a very special place to me, and I still like to spend as much time there as I can.
Has it changed?
Not really. I mean, there are where the concession stand used to be, where the volleyball courts are. That's where I worked as a kid for a couple summers. It's changed, but we have a bathroom down at the other beach now. I like how simple and pristine it is down there.
Somebody said, and I hadn't thought of it, but it's the first beach from New York that's actually accessible, that you can drive by.
Yeah.
That's not in a long entrance way.
Right. Yeah. No, and I think you see a lot of people doing that and taking advantage of it and driving by. So, no, it's true. I think it's another one of the positives about Westport is we have a nice, beautiful, and it's accessible too. I mean, out-of-towners can come and they can come and pay to go to our beach and enjoy it. So,
and I think when I was growing up, and probably you as well, it wasn't used as much in the off season. People did not walk there as much or go there.
Yeah. Yeah. I had friends who lived down there growing up, and I remember taking the school bus to my Kristen Lane's house, and it was so quiet there. And I lived on the other side of town, and I was like, God, it's so quiet, during the winter. But no, it's not like that anymore. Yeah.
Restaurant.
I like the places we end up going to the most are probably Bill Tavy's restaurants, the Welk, Kawani, Don Memo. That's sort of when the family's trying to figure out where to go. We always end up at those, but we try to broaden it out a little bit.
Hidden gem, place that once you mention it, now everybody will know about. But
my hidden gem is my walk from my house. I live off Imperial Avenue, and I just did it this morning. I walk my dogs to town around through the Imperial lot and behind the Levitt. It's such a beautiful walk. It's along the river. It's quiet. I mean, there are people there, but not that many people. That's sort of I think that little point is quite a special spot. There's a little bench you can sit on.
Where exactly are you talking about?
So right behind the Levitt Pavilion, there's
the Riverwalk?
The Riverwalk, yes, exactly. So I like that, and then I'll walk over the bridge here in town and around the other side and over the bridge into Saugatuck. So good little walk for my pups.
So when you mentioned the Imperial lot, big controversy now, people, with the parking and Parker Harding, and people are saying, why don't they park in the Parker Harding, in the Imperial lot? And other people say it's too far. It'll take 20 minutes to get into town. What?
Oh boy, here we go on controversial issues.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about controversial issues,
kidding.
But what are the things that you hear that people are concerned about, and should they be concerned about them?
Related to that, or just in general?
In general.
In general. Yeah, one of the great things about Westport is people have such strong opinions.
You think?
And that's great because there are intelligent people here who have opinions and they voice them and they want to get things done. But we have things to get done. And some things that haven't gotten done for a while need to get done now. And so I think we have great opportunities downtown to make it even better than it is. And my hope is that we can find a way to get some improvements done to infrastructure downtown that haven't happened, including the parking. And so, but yeah, it's municipal government and everybody has a voice, and we need to find ways to come to something that we can agree on and so we can move forward with it. But
And do you feel that people contact you and that you hear what's going on?
I think I have a good handle on what's going on. I am an open book. I will talk to anybody who wants to talk to me and tell me their opinion. People can reach out to me. I'm more than happy to do that. I read the blogs. I read the news. We get emails from concerned citizens on both sides of some of the, of all the issues in town. So I try hard to read, listen, and come to my own conclusions on things. But it's one of the frustrations with government is that things take a long time to get done. It's not a corporation. It's not an independent business. So it can be frustrating, but there is a process, and we have to make sure we go through the steps in every process to get them done. But we have some exciting things going on. So a lot of things have happened, but we have more to do. And I hope to, anybody wants to call me or talk to me, I'm happy to talk to them and listen. So
great. Just two more. Under the radar, what are some things that people are not talking about yet, but maybe in the new year?
That's a hard question. I'm not sure. We never know what, we have a lot to accomplish. I think we need to get some of these hot topics right now behind us and moving forward. That's sort of on the forefront, in my opinion, right now. We do need to move forward to get some things done. Downtown, Long Lot School, some more infrastructure improvements. So there's a lot of those kind of on the forefront. But I think there's a lot on the plate right now. I don't know if I have any great insights I can share with you on like big surprises that are coming in the new year. I don't think we have any of those, but I do think we need to kind of continue to keep the ball rolling on some of these other things that are out there.
So last question, you've got the magic wand. We're taping this in mid-December. Magic wand for 2024. You can wave it and anything can happen. What do you want to happen?
I want us all to work to make the right decisions for the right reasons and do it in a civil way. I'd love for people to start saying to people, "God, that's a really good idea. I'd never thought of that before." Instead of, "No, you're wrong." I'd love to feel more like we're all can find common ground on things, because I believe strongly that most of us believe the same things and want the same things for our families, our children, our town, and the world at large. And I'd like to see us just try to work together, because especially right here, right now, we're really lucky. And I'd just like to see a little bit more recognition of that.
Great.
It's a simple request, but
there you go.
Let's see if we can all work on that
one.
There
you go. Thank you very much. Second Selectwoman Andrea Moore, thanks for coming on, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you, Dan, for including me. This has been a lot of fun.
It's fun.
It is fun.
It's a fun town.
It's a great thing. Thank you for including me.